Hi there everyone, Jason Hoppy here to show you the basic interface with Adobe Illustrator. And we're going to start off with launching the application, which I've just done. And we're going to walk through the preferences and the setup of Illustrator to make it the most efficient for your work that you need to do. Now this is what's called the start screen, and the Adobe applications are going to have this before we actually begin to create or open an existing file. Here you have on the left-hand side, you've got the home screen, which basically shows you different preset sizes that you can choose from. Any of your recent artwork that you have created. You can also see what's new, and these little videos will go ahead and show you what's going on, because Adobe does constant updates with these applications. If you'd like to learn specific items, go to the left-hand side under the Adobe Illustrator icon here and click on the Learn tab. And this will walk you through step-by-step tutorials that you can go ahead and see specific items, setups, how to use type, how to use graphics, how to create graphics, how to make things happen. Now you can watch these here, or you can go to the upper right-hand side and see all of the in-app tutorials here so that you can get a better sense of how Illustrator is going to work. If we go over here to the left-hand side again to your work, you can go to the Cloud Document section. And this is something that Adobe is now encouraging people to do. Since you already have the Adobe Creative Cloud subscription, you also get a very large amount of storage as part of your monthly subscriptions. And you have the choice of saving your files directly to your hard drive or your device, or saving it in the cloud, so that you can have access to this anywhere, anytime, on any device. Now, there's tons of storage. I don't know how large the storage is. I've been using this for years, and I've never come even close to using a small percentage of the storage. So I'm guessing, a terabyte's worth of information, not actually sure. But you can save these and then access them on your phone or your tablet or your computer, your desktop, your laptop, anywhere you have internet access. Super nice to have. And this is something you have a choice when you save, and we're going to show you that as well. We're going to jump right in to the Create New button here. And if you don't see the Create New, you can always go home and you can choose from any of the existing presets here. Doesn't matter. So Create New or click on an existing preset. We're going to take Create New. The new dialog box is going to come up, and we have our choice between any of our recent setups that we've done, any saved, anything that we'd like to build for mobile. Mobile is going to give us basic sizes for standard devices here. And it's also going to give us a lot of templates. One of the things that Adobe also has is Adobe Stock. Now they offer free templates, layouts, illustrations, photos as part of the Adobe Stock, but they also have some free things too. So you may want to get started and you don't want to go and design from scratch or create something from scratch. You can open up one of these free templates here. You can also search for free templates here in Adobe Stock as well, or go online and then open this up and be able to edit an existing file. Now we have mobile setup, we have web content, again, common web sizes here, and more free templates here, ones that you can purchase as well. We have print, film, video, and art and illustration. Now the main differences between these particular categories are basically the file size and the color mode. So if we go over here to the preset details, by the way, these are the presets: mobile, web, print, web, video, art, and illustration presets. You notice that when we're working in different types of presets here, the units of measure are going to change. Art and illustration is going to be in points, but when we go for web or mobile, we always design or build in pixels. Now, this is just kind of the standard type of thing, but you can change the units of measure to make them be whatever you'd like them to be, regardless of the presets up here. Okay? This is just kind of the standards. The other thing, too, is our color modes. Well, when we're dealing with anything that's going to be mobile, web, or print, or anything that's going to display on screen, the color mode is always RGB, which is the color spectrum. Now, if I'm designing for print purposes, then we're going to be using ink, which is CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And you'll notice if I switch over to RGB, it gives me a little warning saying, hey, you know what? You're going ahead and you're working in print mode here, and you do know you can't print in red, green, blue. You can only print in CMYK. Not a big deal, but you can change these preferences right here. You can set the size of your artboards here. You can choose your settings here, points, picas, inches, whatever it may be. And you can choose the number of artboards that you're working with. And remember, Illustrator doesn't have pages. That's what InDesign has. Illustrator has artboards because this is all about creation. They look the same, but it's called an artboard, just to make sure you know what you're talking about. I'm going to click on the Create button, and my entire document is going to pop up. Takes a second here. There we go. And it's going to bring up my new artboard. I'm going to close out a couple of these panels here, and we're going to set up with the very basics here. Now, I've already used Illustrator, so my interface may be slightly different from yours, and I want to walk through that so that you understand what you're seeing. If you're on the Mac, you have an Illustrator menu up in the upper left-hand corner. If you're on the PC, you will not have this Illustrator specific menu. We're going to go through our preferences here. Again, on the Mac, go to the Illustrator tab, go into Preferences, and we can call up our general. If you're on the PC, you're going to go under the Edit menu, and your preferences are going to be at the bottom here on a PC. There's not that much difference between the Mac and the PC interface, but that is one of them. So going under the Illustrator menu, under Preferences, under General, I'm going to start off here and I'm going to talk about some of these basic things that we're going to set up to make your life a whole lot easier with your creation and your ideas. First of all, let's talk about our keyboard increment. Now, I have switched my content or my measuring system over to centimeters. I like using centimeters because it's very easy for me to divide things up into 10 and single units. It just makes it easier for me. So starting off with the general here, what does the keyboard increment mean? That means if you want to nudge something on your document, instead of using the mouse to move something, you can just select your object in Illustrator and then use your up, down, left, or right arrows on your keyboard, and how much is that going to move right there? Now, if I set this to be 1 centimeter, every time that I nudge an object using my keypad here, my up, down, left, right arrow, it will nudge it that amount. I'm going to do it basically 1 millimeter because then I have got really fine movement right there. I can also set my corner radius, whatever my corner radius on my rounded corner shapes could be. Most of these checkboxes here are going to be pretty much standard here, and you can read through what these do, but for the most part, these ones that are checked here are going to be the standard. You can always come back and change these later. We'll talk about those. Going down to our selection and anchor display, this is going to make a lot of sense once we get into working with editing our shapes, selecting the corners, moving the paths, changing the size, changing the shapes, using our selection and our direct selection tool. For now, basically what this will do is when we get close to something when we're drawing, we have this tolerance, and this right now it's set to 3 pixels, which is the standard. What does that mean? That means that if you get close to something, it's going to want to snap to that existing point. That could be really helpful for alignment purposes or creation purposes, but it also can be kind of annoying too when you're trying to create a shape close to something and you don't want it to snap to it. We're going to get into that in more detail as we go ahead and show you how to draw these shapes. Anchor points, handle, and bounding box display. This could be something very nice. Again, we're going to see this. I set the size to max. And what that means is my selection of my anchor points and handles are much larger display than they normally would be. And that's going to be very, very helpful. Under the type section here, we have some shortcuts when it comes down to sizing our type. Right now, we can leave our shortcuts where they are. We definitely will change these shortcuts because as we get into reviewing type, you're going to see why these shortcuts are going to be too coarse using our keyboard shortcuts. Here are units. We can set our general for our measurement and movement and distance and spacing. Stroke is basically the stroke of our objects. Now, stroke is normally measured in points. We don't normally measure that in inches or centimeters here. And we also refer to the type size in terms of points as well. This can be changed. The guides and the grids can be set up as different colors. So if you have trouble seeing a color on screen, when you put a guide or a grid in here, you can very easily click on either one of these colors here and change the color of those guides. Smart guides are something that are going to be extremely helpful when you are creating, moving, and aligning things. Smart guides are on by default, and this pretty much gives us a pretty good set of items of where the smart guides are going to show up and how. Smart guides are something we can turn on and turn off in the application, but for now, this is a pretty good standard setup. Slices, something we don't use very often at all, but if you have a very large graphic for the web, you can actually slice it up into sections. Hyphenation, not much to go on here. Controls hyphenation when we're doing type. Plugins and scratch disks. You may be using a computer that doesn't have a very large hard drive. And so instead of going and spending the money to get a new computer or upgrade your hard drive, you can actually plug in a flash drive or a secondary hard drive. And you can go ahead and say, hey, you know what? I want to use any one of these hard drives as a secondary backup to give me a little bit more processing power. Jumping down to user interface here, we have 4 different color modes. We've got the dark color mode, which is normally what you see when you launch a newly installed Adobe application. So we have extra crispy, crispy, original, recipe, and light and fluffy. Okay? And this just changes the user interface. I prefer to have the lighter interface. It's easier for me to see. Other settings here, good as defaults right here. Open documents as tabs, large tabs. And then we also have this very nice UI scaling. UI scaling allows you to have larger tools and larger panels here without making the entire document larger. I go ahead and I scale the user interface here to a bit larger. I have found if I go all the way to large, run into some problems, so I keep it just one step below large. Now, when you do this, you will have to restart Illustrator in order to make these changes happen. This is one of the few things that you have to do when you resize the UI. Right now, I've got my UI fairly large, which makes it a whole lot easier for you to see when I'm doing these videos. Performance here. Right now, we have my GPU performance enabled. I've taken off animated zoom. You'll see what animated zoom is. I don't care for animated zoom, but some people do. And this is where we can turn on and turn off the animated zoom. What is GPU performance? Well, it helps to smooth the graphics when you're rendering and when you're moving through. We have had a few little issues with it, not something that I've seen lately. I think they've fixed those particular issues. It just provides a smoother drawing of your interface when you're going in and creating shapes, blending things, and it's all just preview related things. It doesn't make Illustrator more advanced or more technically better. It just makes things look smoother on screen. File handling and clipboard. Illustrator has kind of an auto save feature. It doesn't actually save the file if you're saving to your hard drive. What it does is it keeps a temporary file saved. In case you crash, you can open it back up again. However, if you do choose to save your documents to the cloud, it will automatically save these documents every specified amount of time. So saving to the cloud does give you that advantage. Appearance of black is something that I don't normally mess with at all because it's just simply the appearance of the black here. Standard black is a little bit less saturated. Rich black is going to be a slightly larger black. Now, as you go and do this, this is not something that you need to mess with at all. It's a preference that you can set up here, and I've never changed this preference. Most of the time, black is going to be dictated by how you've set up the color in your document and the type of printer that you have. Lastly, devices. If you have any other devices that you'd like to use with Illustrator, I have a tablet that I have plugged in, and I can enable that right there. So those are my basic preferences going through. I'm going to click OK, and now I've set up my preferences. Getting through the interface here, there's things that I want to set up. Now, right now, I have the lighter interface here. It's not the standard one. I changed the interface under my preferences here to be lighter from the dark background to the light background. A couple things that you may not have. First of all, your toolbar may be vertical. Now, one of the things is that if you do have a vertical toolbar, you may not see the entire toolbar because you may be on a tablet or you may be on a device like a laptop that doesn't have a large screen. go to the very top of your toolbar, click on the double-ended arrows, and this is going to give you the 2-column toolbar. Now, your toolbar also may be a lot shorter than this, and you may not see all the tools in there. Okay? Well, that is also a preference, and that preference is set up under your window menu, under Workspace. And a workspace is basically setting up your workspace so that you can go ahead and have panels, control bar, and tools set up the way you want to have them. Now, these are all just simply presets, okay? So automation, essentials, essentials classic, that kind of thing. And I can choose different types of workspaces depending on what it is that I would like to do. Okay? And you can run through all these different workspaces. You can also set up your own workspace. So here, this workspace is called Web. So this is going to be if I'm going to be building something for a website. And all the workspace does, it gives me the set of tools that I could use to build anything for the web. And it also lines up all my properties panel, or all my panels over here, so that if I want to have access to something very quickly, I don't have to hunt them down through the window menu. I can simply go over here, and Adobe has grouped all this content together as if I was going to be building something for the web. So this is nice to get started with here, but in the end, you're going to end up creating your own workspace based on your needs and whatever it is that you're creating. Now, another shortcut for these workspaces here is up in the upper right-hand side of the Illustrator application. And you can go through, and I usually start off with Essentials. And what's Essentials? It's going to give me my full entire toolbar here. You notice when I used the web one, it gave me a truncated version of the toolbar. And then you got to go in and you have to add tools to it. If you do have the truncated version of the toolbar, which you may, and you may not see the tools that I'm going to be using in these videos, you'll probably want to go in and get all those tools. And to do that, you're going to go down to the bottom of your toolbar, click on the 3 dots, which is our Edit Toolbar tab. And any tools that are not grayed out, okay, if they're grayed out, that means that they are in the toolbar. If you have any tools that are not grayed out, that are solid, you can just simply double click on that tool and it's going to add it to your toolbar. Right now, I don't have any tools that are hidden here, so they're all in gray, which means they are all nested in the toolbar. Okay, there we have it. If you do lose your toolbar, go under the window menu and go down to toolbars here, and you can go ahead and choose your basic or advanced toolbars. If I choose basic, this is going to give me the truncated version of the toolbar. Okay, so window, toolbars, I want the advanced one right there, and it gives me the advanced. And this is also if I accidentally close the toolbar, I can call the toolbar back that way as well. Now, another thing that is up here that you may not have on yours is the control bar. Window, control. Now, the newer versions don't have the control bar up as the default. And one of the reasons why is because the control bar is going to give you a lot of information based on the tool and object that you have selected. Now, if you're running a smaller screen, this control bar may not show all of the information that you want to see, just simply based on the size of your screen. So what we have is we have the Properties panel. And the Properties panel is going to basically be the control bar just in panel form. And if you want to call up your Properties panel, go into the Window menu. All of your panels are listed alphabetically here. And call up your Properties panel. So if you're using a small laptop or a small screen, your control bar isn't going to work as well for you, only because it can't display all the information you're going to need. So the Properties panel is going to be off to the side. And I use both. I've been using Illustrator ever since Illustrator 0.88, which is before 1.0. So I'm just used to the control bar here. But I'll show you both because both have certain advantages over the other. The Properties panel doesn't show everything the control bar does, but the Property panel also groups things together in ways that may be much more helpful in easing the process and efficiency of what you're doing. And there's also a few extra little nuggets in the Properties panel that you don't see in the control bar. There's always that trade-off right there. So this is my entire interface right here. I've got my control bar, I've got my toolbar, and I've got my panels over here. Once you begin to work with Illustrator and you begin to understand what panels that you want to have up for what it is that you're doing, you can set up your panels, and you can open up your panels by going into the window menu, calling up the panels that you'd like to see, and arranging them together so that you can then capture this entire setup as a preference, which is called a workspace. So you can nest all these together in a way that is going to be beneficial to you. And we're going to show you that in the next video on how we can set up all these panels and how we can capture a workspace, because it's going to take a little bit of time to understand panels really well. But that was just a quick overview of starting up a new document and just getting a really quick preview of what goes on with the preferences and understanding a quick little view of the toolbar, control bar, and the properties.